Joining me right now is former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor, Newt Gingrich. Mr. Speaker, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
You've had a busy news program.
Oh, my goodness.
This morning.
It is so busy this morning. First off, let me get your take on Italy. Your wife, of course, the ambassador. I know you spent a lot of time in Italy. What can you tell us?
Well, they've had a specific outbreak in the very north, probably started by 2 Chinese tourists. It jumped down to Palermo, Sicily, because one person who happened to be infected flew to Sicily as a tourist. They found that person. They're now in quarantine. There are cases now, to some extent, in Florence. But again, I mean, part of what bothers me as a historian is this is much less currently than the flu is every single year. It's less deadly than the flu is every single year. And the scale of the reaction has been horrendous. 300 and some people so far infected in Italy, a country of, I think, about 50 million people. And I think we ought to put all this in proportion. We can contain it. We can identify it. Wash your hands regularly is the most useful single step. And the fact is, it's not, at the present time, 98% of the deaths are in China. And the Chinese mishandled the whole opening 2 months of this because a totalitarian regime didn't want to be told the truth.
Yeah.
So I think we ought to put the great impact right now, I think, is going to be the economy. And people need to be aware when the second biggest economy in the world slams itself with quarantine of entire cities.
Yeah.
It's going to have a huge secondary impact.
Well, that's absolutely right. And we've been saying that on this program, the fact that you're going to see, bottlenecks and the supply chain is going to get disrupted, and that's going to cut into earnings. Let me just say that the president just tweeted a moment ago, and he said that I will be having a news conference at the White House on this subject today at 6 p.m. CDC representatives and others will be there. Thank you, writes the president. How would you characterize how the U.S. has handled that? I mean, obviously, this is no time for any congratulations right here, sir. We are in a very much an unknown and uncertain situation.
Sure. I did a podcast several weeks ago in which we had 2 of the leading virus experts on the planet spend an hour talking about this particular virus, how it compares to other viruses we've seen in the past. And what I would say is, we have the best public health service in the world. The Center for Disease Control is the world globe standard. The National Institutes of Health is an enormous machine of research. We are presently going to get this thing under control. And we're going to find out that it's manageable. Its primary threat is to people over 80 years of age or people who already have another illness. If you already have pneumonia or you already have some other debilitating disease, then this is dangerous. But so far, outside of China, the number of people who are dying is very small. The number of people actually who have it, look at the numbers you're putting up on the board. I mean,
yeah.
There are not very many people. And if we focus on quarantining those who come into contact, we'll gradually squeeze it out. It may disappear in the spring, as the virologists believe it will, but then it may come back again next fall. So that doesn't mean you can stop. I'm frankly as worried or more worried and think that the president needs an economic package, or you could see a lot of secondary effects because the Chinese supply chain problem is so big that if that doesn't get fixed in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have to take steps here to offset the damage in China.
Yeah, we should. Let me just quickly move on to the debate last night before we lose you, Mr. Speaker, because that was quite a show. The 10 debaters there all over each other fighting. It was hard to understand what was going on. What was your reaction to that debate?
Well, my newsletter today is going to be entitled, Trump's India versus the Democrats' South Carolina. The president and Melania with 120,000 cheering people in the largest stadium in India. And you have these people who are shrinking by the hour. I mean, I thought it was unbelievable how childish, how pathetic, and how they couldn't I mean, I went through a whole series of debates in 12. I can't imagine us or the 16, all the debates Trump did in 15 and 16. They never degenerated into this kind of childish behavior, and I think it shrank the entire Democratic Party.
And you know why? It's because Fox News is not moderating into these debates, right?
Well,
and by the way,
the moderators.
Just by the way, the Democrats who are leading are ones who choose to come on the network.
Well, look, all I can say is the moderators were really weak, and the candidates were dramatically worse. And I think it was the most amazing debate I've watched in my entire career. and you go back, say, to the original debates of Kennedy and Nixon and how civil they were and how orderly they were, and you watched last night as these people just piled on. It was like watching seventh graders. I mean, they piled on each other in a way that had no relationship to somebody who wanted to be commander-in-chief and president of the United States.
Did Bloomberg save himself?
Did who?
Bloomberg.
Oh, I thought Bloomberg did dramatically better, but it depends what you mean by save yourself. We're watching a party marching towards Bernie Sanders, and I think Bloomberg did much better last night. I think Warren, as usual, was angry at everybody. I actually thought Buttigieg looked younger and like less presidential last night. And actually, Biden looked like he was almost awake. I mean, there was a magic moment there when I thought, Biden's actually here. But Sanders has this, I think of it, this may be a sign of my age or my conservatism. I watch Bernie. I think of your drunk uncle who comes down about 11 in the morning and starts talking at the kitchen table and just goes straight at you and sincerely believes everything he's saying, even if it's insane. And Bernie has this thing down, and, Cuba's okay, Venezuela's okay, all these things are really terrific. The Soviet Union was a great place to go vacation in for your honeymoon. And he doesn't have any, I do believe he's authentic. He really believes it.
Say it with me, McGovern, 72.
Absolutely.